Hi, I'm Tim with the Iola Register, and I'm here with Mary Kay Hurd. How are you doing?
I'm doing great today. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you for joining me. It's a weird, stormy, rainy Friday morning.
It is. It is. We don't know what's coming, do we?
No, and there's been all
I
sorts
just
of.
going to ask if you had a basement here.
No, we don't.
Oh,
I don't
dear.
know what we're gonna do. Actually,
Okay, well, I don't
run
either.
over to the courthouse. That's where
Okay.
we'll go.
All right. Okay, well, we have a plan. That's
Yeah.
always good. That's always good.
Yeah. Well, okay. I was thinking of how I was going to introduce you, and the list of accomplishments is very long, and we'll get into some of those things. But I guess I figured I'd just start by asking you, how would you define yourself, or how would you introduce yourself now? What do you think of as your role, or what identity do you feel you're stepping most into these days?
I think that a lot of people have called me a cheerleader for Iola, and I kind of like that idea. Uh,
Mhm.
I think we all need cheering on and encouragement, and I am especially interested in supporting women
Mhm.
in their roles because we have a lot of catching up to do.
Mm.
And but I said this before. I feel like I owe Iola. Our family was in business here for 65 years with Western Auto, and they supported us. That's the reason we had food on the table,
Mm.
and so it wasn't just Iola people; it was people in the county and all around. And that was just a real good growing up for me to be right here in this community. I mean, back in the beginning, it was all mom and pop stores, all
Yeah.
around the square, and we were right on the square. And but I think do it because I feel an obligation and a desire to support all the businesses and the people in Iowa. So
You don't. I was going to ask you this later, but you don't slow down. I don't see you. I mean, you are a very active grandma. You
yes,
are very
yes.
active in Iola Industries. You are very active in all sorts of things. And I, I guess, where does that, you say Iola, you feel like you owe it to Iola. I mean, that must be pretty deep. That must be almost an unending.
It is deep, but you know what? It's good for me.
Huh.
I think it keeps me young,
Hmm.
and young is in your head. I
Hmm.
mean, you're pray for good health, of course, but a lot of it is not just sitting in the chair.
Yeah.
You do something, and it seems like I'm always thinking now, what could we do? What might be a good thing to help such and such cause? And I enjoy that, and that is the way I am, and I think that's the way I've always been. Is just interested in things,
Huh.
And you're right. I have it with my great grandchildren now. I didn't have time when I had grandchildren because
Yeah,
I
I
was
should have said
working.
great grandma. You're right.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah. It's a whole different world. I am
Hmm.
so blessed. So we have Leanna Day, and we have Jade
Hmm.
Day, and we have Hazel Day. But now we've also added Jenna Day. She's my 23-year-old, and she's just a granddaughter, not a great. But everybody should have their day, is what I say.
Oh,
So I mean, it's only a couple hours a week with each one, but we do puzzles, we read books, we just
yeah,
whatever they want to do.
yeah.
It's special to all of
I
us.
I encounter you and Savannah's oldest in the
Mhm.
library pretty often.
Yes,
She's a
yes,
reader, so
yes.
I see you
Oh,
guys
she
there.
is. She read the whole Harry Potter series when she was about 7. I
Yeah,
mean, she is a reader. You're
yeah.
right. And but it's, you know, lots of times parents just need a little help in some of those things because
Mhm.
they're so busy. And certainly
Yeah.
Savannah and Levi are very, very
Mm.
busy, and Charlotte's busy. So it's just that is something that occupies quite a bit of my time. So actually, 3 or 4 days a week a couple hours in the afternoon, that's what I do.
Yeah.
And
But that sense of being busy, looking for things to do, it's in your DNA. It's something that it seems like you've passed down. I look
yeah,
at all Savannah does for the community. We were
hmm
talking before we started recording about the 2019 bond issue and
hmm
how much Savannah was a key part of
yes,
that.
she was. I
Um,
was so proud of that.
Me too. I was lucky to be
You worked
involved.
with her, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking about Charlotte. I was with her last Thursday in Topeka
Yes, you
with the
were.
Zero Reasons Why group.
hmm
And then it just seems to me that's something you've been intentional about passing on.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Why? It keeps you busy, but where does the importance for your children and your grandchildren, your great grandchildren, what do you hope they get from that?
Oh gosh, that's a hard question. I just think they watch
Mm-hmm.
and emulate
Mm-hmm.
and see that it's been good for me. And I don't know. I think they have a desire to do the same sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And
To not just be spectators in their own
right,
community, I think.
absolutely. And sometimes I've worried about Charlotte's participation because I think it's very, very hard for her.
Yeah.
But she just has to do it.
Yeah.
To help with the mental health situation and help these kids. And I told Savannah, a number of years ago, she had her picture on the front page, and I told her, I said, you know what, you made the front page 30 years before I did. So, and I think she was on the city council there at La Harpe for a while. It's just something you don't have to do, but if you do it, it brings you a lot of satisfaction, and it's good for everybody. So I don't know. That's kind of the way. I don't know why they do it, but I think they've just seen me do it and kind of like that idea.
One thing I thought of in preparing for this is your family's history is tied so closely to Western Auto.
Mm-hmm.
Your dad started the Iola branch or the Iola company in 1944?
He bought it from Mr. Babcock in 1944. So it had already been here 10 years or more.
And then eventually you and your husband assumed ownership until 2009. So that was 65 years.
65 years.
And I think a lot of people today, the only exposure they have to Western Auto might be that building in Kansas City with the arrow that goes around.
Right.
I think a lot of people younger now don't know Western Auto.
They don't know what it is.
Don't even know it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was curious if you could just kind of tell me what your childhood was like growing up in Western Auto, and what did Western Auto do for Iola? What was its role to play or to fill in this community?
Well, my mother worked back in the day that most mothers weren't working. So I spent a lot of time at Western Auto. I was just telling your kids a while ago, I'd be there. Mother had the office on the mezzanine, and I would be there, and they'd let me walk a block over here to the Iola Register and go upstairs and get my pads of paper. Then I could go back to the store and play secretary like my mother, So I just, that's a real, and I bring my friends with me sometimes, and you could buy all kinds of paper for a quarter. So, but Dad was a real supporter of Iola too. I see. He was one of the original investors in Iola Industries. We didn't have a lot of money. I know that for sure, but he did buy one share. I think it was $10.
Yeah. So
later on, I added 9 more shares so I could be equal with the rest of them. So I have 110 shares in Iola Industries. But I'll tell you a little story about Iola Industries. When I was about a little over 30, I was at a meeting, a women's group of some sort. They had a lot of those clubs back in those days. Yeah. And Ray Purcell came to talk, and he talked about Iola Industries. And it was real interesting. I knew a little about it because of Dad, but we didn't talk about it at home. But after Ray got through, he said, well, if any of you are interested in Iola Industries, talk to me after the meeting. So I went up and I was visiting with him about it. And I said, well, I'm interested in Iola Industries. He stopped and he thought for a while, and he said, well, maybe you could serve coffee and take minutes.
Oh my.
You may have not heard this, but I've told it before at Iola Industries.
No, I hadn't heard that.
So I don't know what came over me, but I said, Mr. Purcell, and he was mayor at the time. I said, you know what? You can take minutes and serve coffee, and I think I'll be president. And I don't know, we probably both fainted at that point. But anyway, and the board at Iola Industries knows I don't take minutes and I don't serve coffee.
That is correct.
That's just been my rule.
Yeah.
And it goes back, I was 30, a little over 30, 33, and I was 55 when they asked me to join Iola Industries. I have no clue who wanted me to or who put my name up, but I said I'd like to, and I did. And
And you joined the executive board then in 2000. And since 2003, you've been the chairwoman of the board.
Yes. And your grandpa told me, I said, Emerson, what does the chair of the board do? I have no clue. And he said, oh, they don't do much. They just run the annual meeting and the president does all the work. And I said, well, I think I can do that. So, Emerson was chair, and I didn't know this at the time. He was chair for 36 years or something like that. Yeah. Term of office is different in Iola Industries. But anyway, it's that, and I didn't know at the time there were no women in Iola Industries.
Yeah.
I didn't learn that till I went to the first meeting. I didn't even think about it. But there was no other women there.
Well, okay, so first off, I take exception to the idea that you as chairwoman have done nothing, because we've got a state park that's about to open in just a couple months. It's March, so we're looking at May, I imagine. Yeah. And that was an extremely busy and tense time for Iola Industries. It was a lot of work for people who were working behind the scenes. I know that you sent countless emails, letters, phone calls, meetings, budgets. There's a lot of work with attorneys, trips to Topeka. And then I even think, just in the last, since I've been a part of Iola Industries as well, the Peerless facility, the work there has been important. So I guess he probably said that just to get you in the door, but it certainly hasn't been true.
Well, it has been a little more than it was in the beginning. It's kind of evolved into more of a shared role. Mm-hmm. And, I'm not working. And right now, Jerry Dreer is the president, and he has a full-time job. Mm-hmm. So lots of things I can help with that I have time for. Mm-hmm. And so I'm happy to do that and make phone calls or do things that help Jerry out, and he doesn't have to take that role on.
I want to step back, though, because you mentioned you were the only woman on Iola Industries when you joined. Mm-hmm. But that had happened to you before, because when you were at Iola State Bank and Trust,
that's true,
you were the only woman outside of the Gilpin family who had ever been on that board.
That's right.
And I guess, was it hard? Was it uncomfortable? I hadn't heard the story about serving coffee and taking minutes. And I just wonder if you, even as a business owner, did you encounter a lot of that?
I absolutely felt no prejudice from any of the people. Mm-hmm. I never felt uncomfortable. All the people on those boards were my friends, and I felt that. And so it didn't bother me. It didn't bother me. But I did find it interesting that, I would be the first one. That's ridiculous,
Yeah.
But, somebody's got to be the first one, I guess. And we don't have very many women on the Iola Industries board yet, but we have.
No, that's true.
We have 3. We had 4 and 1 has retired. But our goal is to get another woman or 2 on the board.
I guess to kind of play devil's advocate or not, but just kind of force the issue. Why? Why do we need women? Or to take it another way, what do we stand to lose when women aren't present in those decisions, in those board meetings, in those leadership roles in our community? I think now we would look at Iola, and you look at most small business owners in town, and a good chunk of them are women.
They are.
Our chamber
is true.
Our chamber of commerce director is a well-known, Kelly Sixu is a former business owner and prominent leader in the community. But I guess it hasn't always been that way. And I guess what does Iola and what do we just generally as a society miss when people like you aren't part of that?
Well, women certainly bring a different point of view. And I just think that's mainly it. When my dad was running the Western Auto when he first started, I don't think there were any other women-owned businesses that I can recall. Mm-hmm. There were a lot of automotive stores around the square and close. The only one that I can, or maybe there's two that I can think of at that time, was Sears, that was corporate owned, and Montgomery Ward. All the others, well, maybe Firestone, but there was about 5 or 6 just right around the square, competitors.
Yeah.
And I can remember, I mean, it was competition. And I can remember my dad saying, there's enough for all of us. I thought, well, okay, well, that's a good point of view.
Yeah.
And, we just be fair and do our part. And, but women bring a different perspective to all kinds. I think I remember Ruth Bader Ginsburg say, women belong in every room where decisions are being made. And I really like that quote. And I think that's absolutely true. They just, they're just as smart as the men, and they should be there.
I guess, and maybe to take it further, in looking a little bit more broadly, I certainly think about ethnicity, culture, not just gender. I think about race and political orientations. Even, in some of our work, I think we often find big differences in urban and rural cultures and divides, just what people think at a state level is important. And so I guess, do you see when there are multiple voices in the room representing different segments or parts of our culture and our world and our country, does that make us stronger when we have those debates?
Oh, of course. I think so. Yes. I just, everybody in all those different parts of the community make a difference, and they bring a different viewpoint because they've had different experiences. So I think that's all of it's good. And it is interesting to me that so many of our businesses now are headed by a woman. And I think that's kind of unusual even in today's days. Yeah. But it's great to have the courage to do so. It is not easy to run a business. Yeah, it takes a lot of time, effort, and willpower to run a home-owned business.
Well, and you know that too from your experience, of course, in Western Auto, but you've served on a variety of boards. You were part of the library, Allen County Board of Trustees, hospital board twice. Of course, we mentioned Iola Industries and your work on Iola State Bank and Trust, which for many people who might not know that eventually became Team Bank, and then Team Bank no longer is. But I guess if you could kind of look back at some of your highlights, and I don't want to speak for you. I mentioned the state park. I think about the new elementary school. I think about the new hospital that you met for 4 years.
Yes, we met every Monday for 4 years. You're looking back on it, you didn't realize how long it was, but gosh, that's a long time.
That is a long time.
It's a lot of meetings. And I've told Jim Gilpin this. I said, I'm not asking anybody else for money. I'm done with that, because that's not easy to do.
No, not in a small town.
And it's not easy for people to have you see coming in the door and they're going to ask me for money. And oh gosh, I don't want to do that anymore. But
so let me ask you this then: as you look back, and those are just your professional things. We haven't touched much on your personal life. I guess, what are some things that you're most proud of?
Well, all of those things. Every one of those things is very, very important to me. The hospital, it is key to this community staying alive. If we don't have our schools and we don't have our hospital, we might as well shut the doors, because nobody's going to move here. I know that from my experience with Iola Industries. The bolus, you can't even rate the importance of the bolus in our community. And like Russell Stover's coming and Gates, all those people went to the bolus and they said, this is the place we'd like to be. But probably, of course, this is the most recent, but probably the state park is the one I am so excited about now. Whenever I got anything, I was excited about it. Yeah. But so that's just the way it is. But I feel like it's the biggest economic development driver that Iola Industries has ever been a part of, and that we've ever had. I just think the potential for our state park, for our businesses, and for just the growth of Iola is unlimited.
Mm-hmm.
And and now we're working on how we're going to take advantage of all these people coming, because there's the reputation for state parks in Kansas and probably all over the United States, but definitely in Kansas, because I did that research. Like 250,000 people might come a year.
Yeah, and we have to seize that.
That's right. I mean, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
But there are already people thinking about what they're going to do to benefit from that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the whole goal is with Iola Industries, is just have this community succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And so that probably, but the schools and the hospital, those are both close to my heart, and all of the business people, the chamber. We probably are the longest members of the chamber in Iola at this point. That's one thing about age; you get a lot of history there. But we still are members of the chamber.
Yeah.
We haven't been in business for 15 years, but I would not ever not be a member of the chamber, because I know some people, and if they need to know or talk to people, I tell kids, and I just told somebody came and interviewed me Tuesday. The kid was doing a paper on the state park. He was from KU, and I told him, I said, who is just as important as what you know. Mm-hmm. Just like he knew me because his grandmother knew me. Right. And so you just cherish your relationships and know that just about everything you get involved with, you meet somebody new that's really great. Mm. And I just believe that so much. And
that sounds like a deep source of joy for you in the work.
It has been just so many people that, I've gotten acquainted with that if I hadn't been involved in some of these things, I never would have known. Mm-hmm. Charlotte was at the Topeka the other day, and one of the representatives said, now there's some lady from Iola that I met. Well, it was me. So Charlotte said, well, it was Mary Kay, and Mary Kay her, and she said, yeah, that's the name. She said, well, that's my mother.
Charlotte's probably tired of saying that.
Yeah, well, it's a small world, honestly.
It is.
It really is. But, I find they're the best people. They're working hard. Those that are working hard have a lot of wonderful qualities to them. And if you can make their acquaintance, you all benefit from it. So I have truly done that.
I asked you to be here today because Sunday is International Women's Day, and we've touched on it already a couple times, but I'm sure if you look back in your career as a business owner and just in your personal experience as a woman, from when you're growing up to where we are now, I'm sure things have changed. I'm curious what you think about those changes, and then also where you think we still have room to grow and improve as a society, as a town, just in how we treat women, or how women are a part of our society or aren't part of those decisions, like the Ruth Bader Ginsburg that you mentioned.
We still have a long ways to go. I just I feel that very much. I mean, I remember, and it's not been that long, women couldn't get credit. I had a friend that got a divorce, so none of her name wasn't on any of those papers that they had as a couple. If she hadn't had a friend at the bank, she wouldn't have been able to buy the car she needed. I mean, she had no credit. And it's still not easy sometimes to get it.
Yeah.
And that's a major thing. And I often think sometimes they don't believe women when they tell a story. That, I don't know, I can't think of any case where you would say something that something happened and people need to believe people. I mean, why would you say it? I mean, I can't imagine.
Submit yourself to the scrutiny.
Yes,
of the public
exactly.
eye.
Exactly. I'm just thinking of the Supreme Court and how they interviewed this lady, and she was talking about what one of the candidates had done.
Yeah, this is with the Kavanaugh
and
nomination.
It didn't matter. It didn't matter. They still, and that Clarence Thomas, I just saw something about that today.
With
and
Anita Hill.
Those women aren't going to come up there and say that and subject their families and themselves to all of that scrutiny for nothing.
Yeah.
I believed them. But people have got, the men are making those decisions in a lot of cases, and they just let it go through.
Yeah.
We have a long ways to go.
I think too, when you look like at the wealth disparity in terms of how many billionaires we have, and even average earnings, it's not dollar for dollar. A woman does not make every dollar that a man makes. It's still, last I checked, was around 77 cents per dollar, and that hasn't really changed.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And they're probably doing the same work, or maybe even more.
Yeah. Do you feel like you had to work harder as a woman? Do you feel like there was always, sometimes I wonder, especially when I think about my mom's role in the register. One, I think running a business now in Iola is harder than it used to be. I do, because I think our population is different. I think not only is it a smaller town, I just think with internet, with real big mergers in Walmarts, and if you're running a restaurant, you're competing against a lot of chains. The margins are thinner.
Yeah.
And I think with the internet, if you're running a business like Audacious, you're not just competing against, let's say a Sophisticated Rose type of business.
Against Amazon.
You're running against Amazon.
That's right.
Against Temu, against Shane. And these are fast fashion companies that...
Oh, it's all different.
I think about even our car dealerships. You can buy a car on Carvana and it will get delivered to your door.
Isn't that something?
It is. Yeah. I think it's different now, and I think as a community, there's been a hollowing out. In the 70s, if you worked at Gates, that was a good job.
Yes.
And you could provide for your family a lot of times with just that income. And now I look a lot of my kids' classmates, and everybody's got two parents working.
Yes.
Because I think times are harder now.
Yeah,
so
I believe that's true too.
I think for the business community, I do think it takes a little bit more guts. I think it takes a little bit more resourcefulness. And I think when you're a woman, it's even harder. I think there's just, I've always wanted to do a test. I've wanted to write a column. I've wanted to publish an editorial that my grandfather has published and an editorial that my mother has published.
Oh, yeah?
And I'd love for people to guess who wrote what.
Who did what, huh? Okay.
Because I think kind of what you're saying is, when we know that a woman's written it, we have these layers of assumptions.
Judgment.
And, I'm talking too much here, but there's just something I think a lot about.
Well, sure. And so many other things. I think about when Dad came to town and he bought the Western Auto, and he went down to Iola Bank and Trust, or Iola State Bank then, shook hands with Mr. Gilpin, and he lent him the money. Now, it's not that simple these days.
Right.
It was done on whole different levels, I think, in those days. And Dad wasn't from Kansas even. He came from Missouri. But there are a lot of things that are harder. Yeah. I agree. We were just lucky. One of the things we did at Western Auto was we had credit. And that we had credit with people that probably couldn't have gotten a credit card, even if there had been credit cards. Yeah. But those people paid monthly, weekly, whatever was good for them. Dad would say $5 a week, it'd be fine. And that's the reason we had a lot of customers, because they knew they could buy it on time. And the credit cards have changed. I mean, there wasn't really credit cards in those days. Maybe J.C. Penney had one, and Sears probably. But as far as Visa or any of those big dogs, there wasn't such a thing. And it was different to support your family in those days. Yeah. But we had generations of customers, Oh, that's her such and such's grandson, And that was so good. Yeah. So good. But I was in charge of collecting. That
not
wasn't
an easy
real
job.
Fun.
That is not an easy job.
I learned it when I was this big. I went with Mother on collections. So I can remember this one guy coming in one day, and he made a payment. And I had talked to him on the phone. And as he went out, he said to my dad, he said, I thought she was big as a barn and had fangs after talking to her. So I was probably all that nice sometimes, but I guess I was pretty good at collecting. I had less than 1% default rate.
That's
so
pretty darn
that
perfect.
was pretty good. But, I learned that from my mother.
Yeah.
We did you do what you have to do. But a lot of stores in those days didn't do so well because the guy that was running it was also doing the books.
Yeah.
It was too much.
You have to have those layers of separation.
So Mother did that, and Dad did the running of the store, and it was, but I spent lots of time. I did really well at the store at Christmas time because I could sell toys.
Yeah.
I knew about toys.
Well, and if you're a cute little kid selling toys,
exactly.
that's perfect.
And as soon as I could add and subtract and run the cash register, and of course it was one like this at that time, then I could start writing tickets and making sales. And at Christmas time, Western Auto was one of the biggest toy stores in town. Mm-hmm. We put the toys out the day after Thanksgiving. Dad covered all the counters with Christmas paper, so all the fishing lure was underneath, and he put the toys out. And in those days, we wrapped every toy. I mean, and that's one of the reasons people came, we wrapped them all. And we had all these great big rolls of paper. I still have one at home, and it's going to be in my will. Somebody's going to get that big roll of paper. But anyway, and then it had a great big roll of string, that we pulled out and wrapped around. Well, I could never finish it because I couldn't break the string. And so one day, Richard Lucan was out there at the store talking, and I was telling him that story. And I said, but Richard, don't put that in your paper because I don't want people to know that I'm older than Scotch tape. But anyway, lots of fun memories. And of course, we stayed open lots of nights late back in those days at Christmas time. And they double parked behind this out in the store, in front of the store. So it's just, police didn't ever get on anybody. It was a busy time, and that was a fun time.
Let me ask you the last question.
Okay.
Which is, what advice or I guess what would you say to young women who now are starting their careers, or maybe they're, just finishing up college and getting ready to go out into the professional world? Your experience, and I feel like you are a dignitary of Iola. You're not only our cheerleader, but you have a wealth of knowledge and experience that I think makes this very informed support. You're not just out saying rah rah to whatever comes across the radar. You've served on numerous boards and have been a long-time member of this community. So I think when you look to young women today, what would be some pieces of advice, some knowledge, some bits of knowledge that you've gleaned from your life?
Well, as I said before, I think it's the people you work with and the contacts you make that make so much difference in how things go forward. And that's the best advice I have. I think it's who you know and not what you know. You can always learn more. But if you take advantage of those opportunities when you're working on some committee or some group or doing something, get to know those people because they got the same goals in mind as you do, or they wouldn't be doing what they're doing. And those relationships last the rest of your life. And they're just it's good for your soul. It's good for your soul to have those kind of friends. And they do end up being good friends. When you work together, you make quite a bond usually. Yeah. I mean, those 4 years working on the hospital, raising money, we'd already got the hospital, but we were raising money for equipment because I think the medical records was going to be like $2 million.
Wow.
I mean, that was just astronomical.
And this was around 2010. I mean,
yes.
That'd be a lot more money now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I know it. So I think that's the most important thing to most people is who you have contacts with and just taking care of those friendships, calling them. I mean, I've got friends from my class. If you don't reach out and visit with them now and then, you lose them completely. Yeah. And they're just, all of those things are worth the effort. Yeah. So that's I think is what I think is the most important for everybody is to cherish your friendships and just keep working on making new ones and do what you can for your business, but also for your community. And I mean, kids are so busy.
Yeah.
and they're taking care of their families, and both mother and dad are working. It's not easy, and but it's all worthwhile. It's just, and living in a small community are so many advantages.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't trade that for anything. It is.
Well, I am grateful to count you as a friend.
I am grateful too.
I take your advice, and I think it's very, very important. So thank you. And on this weekend, International Women's Day, I especially want to thank you for your work as a woman leader in our community. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for asking me, Tim. I appreciate it. I appreciate it.